Do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome again, everyone, to the wild, woolly world of Cowboy Logic Radio. Another Tuesday night, another couple hours of things the mainstream media, the MSM, refused to tell you. But then again, I don't know if it matters too much anymore since MSNBC has got the lowest rating since, 2007? I guess there's just so much of Chris Matthews foaming at the mouth and getting the tingle up the leg that one can stomach. But so much happening this week, starting out in Egypt, U.S. Embassy in Cairo remaining closed for a third day. Everybody wants Morsi out. Morsi says he's not going anywhere. There are hundreds of thousands in Tahrir Square, more than were actually there during the so-called Arab Spring when the Muslim Brotherhood was taking over. Of course, the secular Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah, right. The ones that keep meeting with Obama at the White House. This is Morsi. This is Obama's guy, and they want him out of there. And Morsi is digging in his heels. He's saying, nope, I'm not going anywhere. I believe I heard at last count 7 people were killed in riots that are erupting there. Some stories are actually saying 8 people were killed as protesters storming and looted the Muslim Brotherhood headquarters, the main opposition parties condemning the violence. And we will keep you posted on that.
Didn't our Egyptian friend Mohammed call this about 2.5 weeks ago?
Yes, he did.
Almost to the date.
Yeah, Mohammed El Alfi said it's going to happen by July 1st. He's 2 days off.
Well, yeah.
Shame on him. He's 2 days off.
Come on, we need you to get a little more accurate there.
But he did say he felt the Muslim Brotherhood would be gone by the end of the year. And he's from Egypt, but he's living in Paris right now, and he's still got a lot of family over there. And it's an absolute mess. And, the so-called Arab Spring has done nothing but create unrest and chaos across North Africa and the Middle East. And this is what, on a much larger scale, it's happening here in the United States as well, but this is what Obama really, in my opinion, and many people's opinion, thrives on. This is the Cloward and Piven strategy. This is spend, create chaos, leave no crisis left unused, and therefore the government is needed, at least many people feel, to create some sort of stability. In my book, it does anything but that's another story. We will be talking about that later, actually in weeks to come. Sheila J. Butler is going to be our guest today.
Sheila
is a healthcare professional. Insurance
I would call her an expert.
Yes. And she actually may surprise you as far as the critique that she has of ObamaCare or lack thereof and what it's doing as far as your health insurance. Some things she said are actually decent, and I'd like to hear what that is because I've yet to see anything that's decent with health care. And we have this just handed to me, and this is like a big story.
This is very, very breaking news.
Yes. The U.S. Navy intercepted 3 boatloads of people off the coast of Florida. This placed the Navy in an awkward position as the boats were not heading to, but away from Florida toward Cuba. Another surprise finding was that they were loaded with Americans who were all seniors on pensions trying to get to Cuba so as to be able to return to the United States as illegal immigrants and therefore be entitled to far more benefits. I'm sorry, I can't do this with a straight face anymore. Far more benefits than they were receiving as legitimate U.S. pensioners. Obviously, this is a joke, but this is not funny. The Navy, it is believed, gave them food, water, fuel, and assisted them on their journey. And now they're looking to book the next boat out. Let me know if you want to come along. I think this might be something some tourist agencies
Sandals
might
might
want
be
to
advertising this. Sandals.
Well, they actually had stories years ago, I'll never forget, of an old man who said he committed some crime. I don't know what he did. Petty theft or something like that. And he said this way, when he gets thrown in prison, he'll get 3 squares, he'll get health care, and he'll have better quality of life than he is on a pension.
I'm sure there are a few folks in there that are there because of that.
But this is absurd. And it's a joke. Obviously, this is a joke. That was not true. But this is what is happening, is the people who may actually become legalized citizens, and many of them don't want to become legalized citizens because they don't want to have to pay the taxes, but they will actually have more benefits than Americans.
They will indeed.
And there is an extreme double standard as far as
there is no standard.
Well, as far as how they're being treated through the legal system as well.
I want to make 2 points that have absolutely nothing to do with boats of people fleeing Florida for Cuba for their pensions. Mm-hmm. The first is that those of you that missed last week's show need to go listen or watch the archive on YouTube. I've had numerous conversations this week with friends and colleagues, including one today from Amsterdam, that about the show that we had with K. Carl Smith. And I am still pumped up after that show. I'm still motivated. I'm inspired. And if you missed that show last week, I really encourage you to go check out the archive, because this may very well be the direction that we want to move the country in order to undo the transformation that's taken place. I think this guy's definitely onto something, and it goes all the way back to Frederick Douglass, and the bottom line is, it wasn't broken. Don't try to fix it. Okay?
Yeah,
so that's
note
the first
to John
thing.
Boehner. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Stop.
The second thing that I want to talk
everybody.
about.
Oops, sorry,
the second thing I want to talk about
Yep.
is the fact that everybody's getting pumped up and ready to celebrate July 4th, what we celebrate as Independence Day, when actually Independence Day was today, July 2nd. And one of the things that I was thinking about on the way home, on the drive home today, is that when this took place, when our founding fathers drafted the Declaration of Independence and laid out the foundation for our country, which was quite honestly the antithesis of England. It was everything that they were doing was about liberty and giving liberty and freedom to the citizens of the United States. And that's how Congress was originally set up, was to help with these freedoms and these liberties that the drafters of the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence had as their vision. Well, it's really become the opposite, because everything now, well, I shouldn't say everything, the liberals will chastise me for that. The majority of everything now that Congress is doing is to limit our liberty and our freedom. It's exactly the opposite, which is transformation. But this hasn't just been going on since Obama took the chair. It's just that, the founding fathers have got to be just face down in their grave at this point, no longer rolling. It's a travesty. But at any rate, while we're going through the Independence Day celebration in America, remember that the whole intent of this was freedom and liberty, and so much of that's being taken away from us almost every day in Washington.
Well, as Benjamin Franklin said to Betsy Ross when he came out of that meeting, what kind of government are we going to have? And he answered, it's a republic, as long as we can hold on to it. And that does not seem
That's
to be...
profound.
Yeah. considering the fact that he was just one of those angry old men from 230 some odd years ago that didn't know what he was talking about when he helped write all the Constitution and all that other stuff. But
Did you tell everybody about the ship that intercepted boatloads of people off of the coast of Florida?
which one was that?
This placed the Navy in an awkward position as the boats were not heading to, but away from Florida toward Cuba.
I said that already. Come on.
Another surprise finding was that they were loaded with Americans who were all seniors on pensions trying to get to Cuba so as to be able to return to the United States as illegal immigrants and therefore be entitled to far more benefits than they were receiving as legitimate U.S. pensioners.
Did you miss the first 5 minutes of the show?
No, but I read that again because it's such breaking news that any of those late arrivals to the show, I don't want them to feel left out. So throughout the night, we will bring this breaking news back into the mix.
You can't make this stuff up. Somebody out there really does have a good sense of humor. Judge Napolitano is saying more dangerous to personal liberty is a free society. A renegade who tells inconvenient truth about government lawbreaking or government officials who lie about what the renegade government has revealed. He's essentially, I guess, of the thought that Edward Snowden might be a renegade, but Edward Snowden isn't doing too much more to hurt this country than the people in Washington, D.C. are, which is a real shame, but he's probably right.
On a side note for Judge Andrew Napolitano, who Donna and I both have a great deal of respect for, but there is a little-known fact about him. And that is, you've seen the shows that are on A&E or some of the entertainment networks that are, child stars, Where Are They Now? And most of them are in the gutter with heroin addicts or addictions, or, they've lost all their money, or they're like, who's the Different Strokes kid?
Yeah, I know.
Willis.
Yeah.
Anyhow, many of you probably don't know that Judge Andrew Napolitano is actually Eddie Munster grown up.
Stop.
Did you know that?
Judging from his hairline, yes.
That's right.
But seriously, Napolitano said, if you think about this, the very people whose hands we have reposed the Constitution to for preservation, protection, defense, and enforcement have subverted it. Snowden, even though he spoke the truth, knowing what would likely befall him for his truthful revelations and making them nevertheless, was an act of heroism and patriotism. Thomas Paine once reminded the framers that the highest duty of a patriot is to protect his countrymen from their government. Interesting.
Well, I was reading in Drudge the other night that there's not too many places that really want to take Snowden.
Well, not at this point. Even Russia is trying to appease, I guess, the United States because
they don't want them to
Obama
tap into their emails and their
right.
phone systems.
Well, apparently he knows what he's doing. The other thing I really, on a very serious note, we need to send prayers out to the 19 elite firefighters and their families who died so suddenly Sunday in that out-of-control wildfire, just horrible, in the Prescott, Arizona area. I can't imagine what they're going through. Such handsome young men, such beautiful families, such loving wives and children that they had, and to be snuffed out like that needlessly, really. And I mean, they were heroes. They were doing what they loved to do. But this is the worst loss of life for firefighters since 9/11. And it's just, they were young, they were dedicated. And
I'm hoping that some of the funds that were raised for the carrytheload.org can get down to those families, because that was a very successful project during the month of May, and part of those funds that were raised were for the families of fallen firefighters, and I wore my firefighter shirt today, my Memphis shirt, but yeah, thought about that quite a bit today.
It's just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. You just cannot imagine what the families are going through, and our hearts and our prayers certainly go out to them. And anything, we actually should probably contact the Carry the Load folks. I bet.
I'm sure
they're already on it.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're already on it. Sarah Palin says she's open to starting a new political party. And they were saying that Mark Levin is even thinking about it. Now, I think this is not a good idea in some respects, but I do think hopefully that the remnants of the conservative part of the Republican Party will actually wake up and realize the Tea Partiers, the ones who are true lovers of America, and I'm talking about more the constitutional conservatives, will actually try to wake up Congress. If this immigration thing goes through, I think that's it. I really think Boehner's just gone. And I don't have the best of feelings about it. I know Paul Ryan's already hopped on that bandwagon along with Marco Rubio.
Well, they're all jumping on it.
That's just, somebody's getting to him. That's just my
And
opinion.
having said that, the topic of immigration, we do have breaking news here. The U.S. Navy has intercepted 3 boatloads of people off the coast of Florida today. This placed the Navy in an awkward position as the boats were not heading to but away from Florida toward Cuba.
Dave, shut off his mic, will you?
Not everybody gets here at 9 o'clock, Donna.
Okay, finish it then.
No. It's lost its appeal now.
No, it hasn't. It's
Yes,
actually
it
very
has.
funny.
It's not so funny.
Well, it is a way to get benefits if you need them. I mean, really.
Another
think
surprise
about it.
finding was that they were loaded with Americans who were all seniors on pension trying to get to Cuba so as to be able to return to the United States as illegal immigrants and therefore be entitled to far more benefits than they were receiving as legitimate U.S. pensioners. More when this develops.
You just can't make this stuff up. It really is sad to think that Americans who are really the hardworking Americans that are worrying about, as Paul Harvey says, working 40 hours a week before Tuesday night, then going to the PTA meeting, getting home at midnight, and getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to
You
milk
would
the
mean
cows again.
the farmer.
Farmers. And the hardworking folks out there that not necessarily have farms. But the point is, you try to work hard, you pay your taxes, you try to get the best standard of living for your children. And what's happening is you've got what they say is 11 million, but you know it's 30 million people who have come here illegally. And I don't have any problem with legal immigration. My great-grandmother and my grandmother came in that way. What is wrong with that? Nothing. But what's happening now is we're just getting 30 million people, essentially, who are going to fill the ranks of the union voids that have been, whose numbers have been dwindling. That's really the bottom line. Anything you do, just follow the money trail. That's your money trail right there.
Yes, it is. Now, there's something that we're not touching on that is big news today, and it doesn't have to do with 3 boatloads of people off the coast of Florida. It has to do with the fact that this administration has all of a sudden turned the mandate that has to do with employers and 50 employees. They're not going to penalize them to 2015. And I don't want to get into this until we can get Sheila Butler on here, because I'm sure that will be a rather interesting conversation to hear a couple of perspectives on that subject.
And why 2015?
Well, I've got a plethora of reasons why, but I'm not going to get into it now because we've got breaking news.
We do. Beep, 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 beep. What would that breaking news story be?
The U.S. Navy has intercepted 3 boatloads of people off the coast of Florida today. More later.
You are out of control. You must be tired. You are tired.
Yes,
I know
I
that.
am
You're
tired.
feeling no pain right now. This whole thing with what's going on in Egypt, I see it really as a huge slap in the face to President Obama, since he's the one who wanted the Muslim Brotherhood in there. I also neglected to say that a Dutch reporter female reporter was gang raped in Tahrir Square during these protests. This is just unbelievable what's going on over there. And he's sort of keeping quiet now because this is his guy in there. And it'd be very interesting to see what's going on. But Morsi says
he's
not.
keeping quiet. But what were you telling me? And I'm going to have you tell this story about the faux pas that he created in Africa regarding the door to nowhere.
The door that supposedly the slaves went out to. I had heard a report somewhere, I forget where I heard it, that if you look out that door, now things could have changed in a couple hundred years, but there's nothing but rocks there. There's no way ships could have gotten up in that way unless they had a huge plank, essentially, to those ships, because it's dry there, And actually what is there is a bunch of garbage. People went through that doorway and just throw their garbage down on the rocks. It's pretty much what's there.
So was he in the wrong spot? Is that what the story was talking about?
I don't know what it was, whether it was the wrong spot or whether things have changed, but it's basically a garbage dump now. But
Yeah.
he had to go take a look at
Jeez.
it. There's huge protests actually against him over there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought so, but that's what's happening.
Want to say hello to David Griffith, Mr. Producer. How you doing there, Dave?
Hey, round of applause for Dave.
He's making sure the Peter meter stays in line and that we don't overload.
But we are going to have Sheila J. Butler on with us shortly. She is, again, a health insurance and overall insurance expert, any kind of insurance you might want. And she may surprise you because she actually said there are some decent things to this ObamaCare thing. And there's another story about ObamaCare effectively banning Catholics from owning health insurance companies because of the mandate on abortions. That's just another slap in the face to Catholics and to Christians that also gets overlooked.
I'm thinking we need to have Bill Donahue,
Yeah.
the head of the Catholic League, right?
Yep.
We've got an inside with him.
Yep.
And she may be listening right now.
And I would love to have him on. I've interviewed him before. He's a cool guy. But his
Now,
claim to fame.
I want to go back to
cooler.
something you said just a minute ago because you mentioned the fact that you don't know if it's a real good idea to start this new party. Yeah, I agree that if we come out with something that's called the Independent Party or the Libertarian Party, that probably it's not going to work in this entrenched two-party system. But over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking to some key people here with Stand Up America, as well as voicing some opinions of our own that hopefully are going to lead like-minded Americans into actually trying to restore our country as opposed to transform it. Mm-hmm. You know, if you've got a chair that has been handed down through generations in your family, let's say it belonged to your great-great-grandmother, and it's pretty hammered. I mean, it's maybe 100 years old at this point, and it's tattered, it's scratched up. You don't transform that chair into something new. You restore it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think that America needed to be transformed. It needed to be restored.
Yeah, why, if it's such a great country, do you fundamentally want to transform it?
You don't.
No, he does.
Yeah,
we don't. Did you also hear? Well, the thing is, overall, the problem is the people are trying to speak, and the Republicans, the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, are not listening. That really is the bottom line. Yeah. They have their own agenda, and the bottom line is follow the money trail, follow the political might. That really is it. And they've gotten so brazen now that they really don't care, in my opinion, about the good of the country. All they care about is their collective backsides. And they go out, they sit there on the floor of the Senate or the House, and they, spew their diatribe like, Guam is going to tip over if we put too many troops there and whatever. And, helium is necessary for clowns and everything else. But seriously, they go out there, they spew their diatribe on the floor, supposedly trying to look good for their constituents. And then they go out and they have dinner together and they yuck it up. Republicans and Democrats. I've been at a couple of those dinners, quite frankly, with people from both sides of the aisle. And before you sit down, they actually say, nothing leaves this table. We're going to just have a nice open conversation. And you'd be surprised how totally opposite some of these lawmakers are from what they'll spew to their constituents. And I sat there going to myself, oh my God, we're really in trouble. We really are in trouble because no one believes, what these guys are saying. The other thing that I did want to get to that Obama, was talking about last week that I really feel is going to seriously cause everything to necessarily skyrocket, and his exact words are, his essentially killing the coal industry. If you leave things alone, the free market economy will work, and clean coal technology has been making great strides. So he doesn't care because his agenda is an environmentalist agenda, which essentially is, to me, a socialist agenda under the guise of trying to save the environment. So now he goes to Africa, spewing all this stuff about global warming that, again, has been totally debunked in many, many areas. And you know what? I don't have a problem with saving the planet. The problem is the solar and the wind technology is not there. And the environmentalists, that have all this solar that they're pushing and wind technology that they're pushing are totally silent when it comes to how many birds these things are killing. There have been some stories on that this week. Totally silent of how this is hurting. God forbid it hits the spotted owl. If those wind panels kill a spotted owl, then we're really in a dilemma. Anyhow, so
well,
Obama
we're
goes
not.
To,
The environmental wackos are, because they're trying to figure out what to support.
So he goes to Africa, and you got to bear in mind this is an extremely poor, continent, obviously, that's trying to better itself, that's trying to advance. And he says, quote unquote, the planet will boil over if you have access to air conditioning and big houses. So he's trying to say this initiative, Power Action, or at Power Africa, it's being called, speaking at a town hall event in Johannesburg, South Africa. He claimed that the planet's going to boil over if everyone has access to air conditioning, automobiles, and big houses, unless the world finds, quote, new ways of producing energy. So is that what you say to a continent that is suffering from oppressive temperatures and widespread poverty? Do you think a country that is so poor really gives a crap about the environment?
No.
Look at any country that's poor and look at their environment. If you're worrying about putting food on the table, the last thing on earth you care about is the environment. And this is unbelievable. Coming from a guy who has probably the biggest, next to Al Gore, carbon footprint on the face of this earth. I mean, he's jetting all over $100 million trip. Is one trip. He spent $1 billion last year on vacations.
Well, did you hear what happened?
The height of hypocrisy.
Did you hear what happened up in New York with regard to the hybrid buses?
No, what happened there?
The hybrid buses that are in New York City the warranties are running out on them, and they're going to be way too expensive to maintain. So now they're trying to figure out a way to retrofit diesel buses with that technology because, what was it, 1,600, almost 1,700 buses out of 5,700 in New York. They tried to do this hybrid deal, and it's failed. It's failed.
Explain a little bit about this, whatever it is that's put on these diesel engines now that the EPA is making it happen. And some emergency vehicles are breaking down with victims in them. And in fact, one guy was a gunshot victim. I believe it was in Chicago, and he died. He never made it to the hospital. What is this called? It's
called Regen. Okay. And we have it on the newer buses.
And
I want to say,
mandatory.
I think Danny told me today that it's 2009 models and later. And basically it's a computerized system. It's set up with sensors, and when these sensors, and I'll probably get this wrong, but when these sensors end up indicating that there is so much carbon built up, what happens is it goes through this regen system and it burns off that carbon. Well, you have very little warning. I know that the first time that we had it happen with one of our later model buses a few years ago, we didn't know what the heck was going on. The driver didn't know. Mm-hmm. And basically you shut down. You have to do this regen or you can't continue driving. And it happens randomly whenever this carbon builds up, and that clearly is reliant on the quality of fuel that you're burning and the whole 9 yards. So it's, we're actually trying to buy shells that are pre-2009 so that we can avoid all this EPA crap that you have to go through with the new engines.
Well, I think also look back at the F-350 or the Ford pickup trucks. Okay, we have a 2000 model.
Mine versus yours?
Yeah, mine stinks. God, it's okay now, but the whole engine had to be rebuilt. Okay, and people who don't understand what's going on, this engine, the 7.3 liter engine that the Ford,
which is what I have in my,
and it's an older truck, 2000 to 2002 or something, or before pre-2002.
2000 model.
Yours is 2000, but it's up to about 2001 or 2002. And then the EPA comes in and says you got to, make these engines smaller. They got to be more gas efficient. They got to have this, blah 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 blah, or fuel efficient. And it's fine, but the technology is not there. The same with wind and solar. The technology is not there. You can't just say, hey, hey, Henry Ford, make me a Ferrari, even though you just made the Model T. It takes years for things to be honed, for the free market society to figure out how this is going to work, just like clean coal is working. It's just going to take time. So what happened is trucks like mine, my F-350,
which is a
I
2006 model?
Oh, I thought you were going to, would I call it off the air?
No.
It's one of the 7 dirty words you can't say on the radio.
Donna has a 2006 F-350
It's a 2006
dually 4x4.
Right. And it's a 6.0 liter engine. And it's just great now, but the whole engine had to be totally rebuilt.
There was a bunch of stuff that had to happen, unlike my 7.3.
Which will just go forever.
That's right.
And I've had people say that they've had dealers come in and when someone's trying to turn in a 7.3 liter, they have that damn thing sold before the guy even leaves the parking lot with the new truck because people want them so much. I have some stats here. Speaking of
hold on a second. I think we should go to break.
We should?
And since I'm in front of the mixing console here,
okay,
I can pretty much pull your mic back and force you to go to break.
All right. I did want to talk a little bit more about how the greenies are having a heart attack over these birds being killed, though, by these wind turbines. They're saying
why don't you do that?
Well, real quickly, by the year 2030, if this keeps going, they're saying these darn things are on track to kill 1 million birds a year in the United States. And then they had an extinct for the area white-throated needle-tail bird spotted in a section of Scotland, only to be promptly sucked into a wind turbine, accompanied by the screams of horrified amateur bird watchers.
Oh, my
They are giant scythes of swinging
I had a scythe
doom.
one time, and I put salve on it.
According to this, I'm not sure
Cleared
what a
it up
scythe
real
is, but I
quick.
would have...
With very little scarring.
But see, this puts the environmentalist wacko Trey Huggin dingbats this puts them totally at a,
what was that
at
bird
a quandary.
called?
It is a
scaby?
White-throated needle-tail.
White-throated
Needle-tail bird spotted in Scotland.
The U.S. Navy has intercepted 3 boatloads of people off the coast of Florida today.
More in a minute after this.
Well, hey, seriously, let's get back into the groove of what's going on here. American Pride Network, that's our broadcasting company.
Mm-hmm.
We are partners with StandUpAmericaUS.org. If you haven't gone to that website, you need to go to the website.
Yes, you do.
I actually go to that site before I go to Drudge now.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Good for you.
Yes, I do. Because Scott Winchell is on top of things, not to mention the fact that you got Major General Paul Vallely looking over my shoulder. So I will go to that site before I go to any other sites.
And you will like it.
And I will like it. You're darn right I will like it.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to have Sheila Butler coming in to talk to us about health care.
You got questions about health care? The number is 917-675-3200. I'm sure you got a lot of questions, and hopefully Sheila will be here, and I know she can answer them. We'll be back in a moment right here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, the official radio show of StandUpAmericaUS.org.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to sit up all night with a newborn colt and watch it die, then dry his eyes and say, maybe next year. I need somebody who can shape an axe handle from a persimmon sprout, shoe a horse with a hunk of car tire, who can make harness out of hay, wire, feed sacks, and shoe scraps, who planting time and harvest season will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then painin' from tractor back put in another 72 hours. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody strong enough to clear trees and heave bales, yet gentle enough to yean lambs and wean pigs and tend to pink-combed pullets, who will stop his mower for an hour to splint the broken leg of a meadowlark. So God made a farmer. It had to be somebody who'd plow deep and straight and not cut corners. Somebody to seed, weed, feed, breed, and rake and disc and plow and plant and tie the fleece and strain the milk. Somebody who'd bail a family together with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. Who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what Dad does. So God made a farmer.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
My name is Isabel. I'm from the beautiful city of Torrance, California, and I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio.
My name is Scott Winchell. I'm the National Editor-in-Chief at StandUpAmericaUS.org, and I listen to Cowboy Logic, and I hope you do too.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, wears Bailey hats exclusively from the Cowboy Shop, and so can you. Visit thecowboyshoponline.com or call them at 888-854-6913. That's 888-854-6913.
And another day of
It doesn't matter if you live in Georgia, the U.S., or for that matter, anywhere in the world. The Cowboy Shop will deliver right to your door. Visit the Cowboy Shop for clothing, boots, hats, home decor, saddles, and horse gear. Even children's clothing, anything cowboy, you'll find it at thecowboyshoponline.com or call them at 888-854-6913. The Cowboy Shop, for the little cowboy in all of us. Yay!
Do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. Our phone number 917-675-3200. But on the phone with us right now is Sheila J. Butler, who is what I would call a health insurance expert. Sheila is a real success story in her own right because she worked for an agency and ended up buying it. Can't beat that. And then she began her employment with Larry Denny and Associates. That was an 18-year agency back in 1984. She oversaw individual and group sales, and by 97 she purchased that agency and changed it to the Sheila J. Butler and Company. And she is now the president of Sheila J. Butler Insurance, Inc., I assume. And one thing that I can say, Sheila, is that to me, when we talked earlier this week, we wanted to get you set up for the show. I was real surprised that you actually had some optimism about Obamacare, and that kind of makes me feel good, too, especially for people who have individual insurance plans. But Sheila J. Butler, welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Thank you, Donna. Very pleased to be here.
Well, we should say also, you sound okay, but you are driving, so if you drop out, we'll just call back immediately, okay?
That's the price you pay for being the president of the company. You work late hours.
Exactly.
I do, absolutely.
Hey, Sheila, right off the bat, I want to say United Healthcare and Aetna out in California say they're dropping individual policies. Now, this is both in California. Is that possibly a precedent for the rest of the country, or do you know exactly what the situation is with that one?
I believe that Kaiser has such of a strong market share there that what you're going to find is that in areas or states where there is a prominent carrier, you're going to find other carriers back away where there's not greater market share. For instance, on Friday, I received a phone call from Medical Mutual of Omaha or Ohio, and they have pulled out of Georgia because of the tax dollars that they're going to have to pay just to be a part of the game. So if you don't have a greater market share in that state, you will see carriers regress and pull out.
Well, what happens if you can afford individual health care? Your company says, nope, we're going out. You're out on your own. Can you go to another company and get individual health care, or are you stuck with the exchanges at that point?
No, absolutely. What happens when a carrier pulls out, they're always very, very businesslike in doing so. And again, even when HIPAA came in place in 1996, we saw 20 markets go from 20 to about 12 markets. And in every single one of those circumstances, those carriers were very much business professionals, and they found other carriers pick up their block and honor their renewals, which is what we've seen with Medical Mutual over the last few days since their announcement.
Even if you have pre-existing conditions?
Yes. They pick up the block as if it were their own. So there's no fear factor there other than the fact that the market, narrows a bit and leaves us with less opportunity.
Well, that's the thing, because you're going to have fewer and fewer companies. So to me, you have less competition, and that to me is going to drive up prices, no?
Well, one would think that, but we survived it in 1996 from 20 carriers to, narrowing it down now in Georgia to really about 7 or 8 carriers, and we're doing just fine with that.
All right, so give me some good information, some happy, positive information, because all I hear is Obamacare is a train wreck.
Well, and I think the news media has to report what they know. I just think that they just don't know. Well, let them join the carriers. They don't know either. But what we do know is carriers know how to make money, and those that are going to stay in it will make money. And the one thing that we hated about them, we should now love about them, because they are going to keep socialized medicine from entering into this market. I strongly believe that. I sit on the board of many insurance carriers. I'm in many focus groups, and I report that with all passion and enthusiasm that I can, that we will have an avenue that we will escape socialized medicine as long as we allow the carrier market to stay in place.
Well, yeah, as long as that happens. The problem is, you made a comment a minute ago about they don't know what's really going to happen. Nobody knows what's really going to happen. That's what I find to be the problem. This is the one largest piece of legislation, the most expensive piece of legislation that's turned into now one of the broadest base management sectors of our economy, and the legislators didn't know what was in it. The president, quite frankly, doesn't know what's in it. The insurance companies don't know what's in it. Brokers don't know what's in it. And everybody's saying, okay, let's bite off this big piece, and then we're just going to kind of figure out what's in it. And, the things that you and I discussed on Sunday about the positive sides of this and the positive results of it could be handled in about 9 pages of documentation.
Right.
And that's the problem that I'm having with the whole thing. Do I like the fact that I can keep my kids on my insurance until they're 26? Sure. Because they're screwed once they turn 27. Do I like the fact that, an insurance company can't necessarily drop me or deny me coverage because of a pre-existing condition? Sure. You and I could sit down at your office and draft something that stated that in a matter of about an hour, and then we could go on our way and have this handled in 9 pages, 10 pages.
But Don, the unsexy part of that, if you don't mind if I interrupt here for just a moment, is that the one part of this law that I kind of respect on a certain level is all of those can't be possible if everyone doesn't take a part in this system. And the one part about this system that is not sexy for a politician to say is that everybody has to have it, or it doesn't work.
Everybody's got health care. Everybody already had health care. I'm sorry?
No, they didn't. Tell me how they had it.
Well, you weren't denied health care.
You weren't denied health care. Anybody, as a citizen of the United States or as an immigrant here illegally, could walk into an emergency room and they could not deny you health care.
Parts of that is true, that for the system to work, everyone needs to pay a premium and feed into the system for the thing to work.
Yes,
but they're already talking about the fact that this bloated, expansive bill can't be paid for. Well, Sebelius is saying that. They're out there trying to get the NFL to endorse this, to try to get people to sign up for it.
Well, I think what's going to happen too, Sheila, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that everybody who might be getting a big fat income tax refund, that they're used to getting are going to find that if they don't have health care, that refund is going to have to go toward your penalty. And even if you pay that penalty, you don't necessarily get health care then. That's what I find so unreal. No?
Well, but then there lies the responsibility factor that makes this system work, is that you don't need to walk around without it. Mm-hmm. And you can either pay the tax, go to the public exchange, or buy health care, which is better suits you.
Well, what's better suited me is that myself and along with millions of, and I'm not going to throw you hardballs all night, don't worry.
No, it's okay. I'm good at
it. But people like Donna and I and Mr. Producer here are paying for their health insurance. We are paying. And
there's
the thing
30 million that are not.
But what's going to make them suddenly get responsibility because they're being forced into it?
I would say so.
Well,
that's an obvious answer.
I think that, with all due respect, is one of those things that we have to pass the bill to see what's in the bill.
Could I tell you one thing that irritates me the most about society?
Mm-hmm.
That
outside of talking to me on a radio show?
No, I love this. I love being able to speak raw and real. I love real. That's who I am. I'm made of that.
That's right, Sheila J. Butler.
That's right. Okay. The one thing I cannot stand when someone comes to see me is, I really don't need health insurance. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm completely healthy. I take great care of myself. I'm just buying it just in case. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, okay, that's fine.
That would be
but
me.
You don't need to buy it when you need it. You need to buy it in case you need it.
That's true. I'm only joking. But the thing is, if people who are responsible right now have health insurance, what's going to make them suddenly become responsible now? I mean, to me, the big responsible slap in the face is when they say, like you say, well, I don't really need it, and then they don't get it, and then something does happen, and they're socked with, tens of thousands. Exactly.
Well, I want to interject a personal experience here, if you guys don't mind.
Not at all.
Up until I became 50 years old, which was before Donna, which was after Donna became 50 years old.
He's old. I robbed the cradle.
All right. Up until I became 50 years old, because of the trend of the economics of my industry, there were years when I would terminate my health insurance toward the latter part of the year, and then I would reinstate it, April, May, June, sometime in there, when my industry really picked up in volume. Now, I did that one year, and this happens to be the last year that I ever did that, but I tore my Achilles tendon in half, knowing then that I didn't have any health insurance. So I was faced with one of two things: either pay out of pocket for the surgery, which, how much would it have been, Donna? Like
a lot.
13, 14 grand?
Yeah, something like that.
Or put my leg in a cast and let it heal. But that was my choice. And at the time I opted, first of all, I walked around with a torn Achilles tendon for 2 weeks, trying to think that I could heal it myself. A few years. Yeah, I used
it's still lame.
Lace-up ropers to keep my leg intact, but the pain did
Where are we at?
I hear you. Okay.
I'm back.
Did we lose you?
Sorry, guys.
Well, we lost Don. I didn't hear.
No,
you for a
we're on.
there,
we're fine.
Okay.
At any rate, my whole point in bringing that up, Sheila, was that I had the choice. I could make a foolish decision if I wanted to. I didn't need the government nannying me, telling me what to do. And, if I would have been in an emergency situation, they would have let me into well, probably if I'd have gone to the emergency room, they'd have let me in without insurance and taken care of my problem. Am I wrong?
But as a person who has a job, you would have had to pay for it later.
Band-Aid. I'm going to say Band-Aid to that, okay? Now have cancer, have 5-stage, renal failure, have, I had an uncle who chose to go without health insurance and couldn't get it when he needed it. And he probably died trying to be treated through an emergency room or someone who would care for him. And that is your big problem, the 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
There's those times when you need it and the emergency room just doesn't work. And that's the problem in society right now. It's that car wreck for that 26-year-old that didn't have it, that ran up a bill of $2 million and wants it.
But who's to stop? There are a lot of people who are not getting health insurance anyhow, and they don't care. Just like car insurance. There's a lot of people out there getting accidents, and everybody I talk to said they have car insurance, and they hope if they ever get in an accident that the person that they have the accident with will certainly have insurance as well. And that's mandated. So you just got to wonder. To me, responsibility is the big word. To me, I don't see a lot of people having responsibility, additional people. They might be forced into it, I guess, to some extent. More people are going to be pretty much just having a heart attack when they find out that their tax returns aren't going to be coming back to them, that it's going to this huge government train wreck, which, is what Max Baucus and John Boehner actually called it, a train wreck and unworkable today. So...
All right, I think we need to let everybody know that we've lost Sheila again.
I'm here.
There you are.
Yeah. Yes,
all right.
I'm sorry.
I tell you what, I want you to give me another warm and fuzzy moment about how great this is.
I guess the thing that I'm trying to come across with is that healthcare was not going to reform itself. And at some point, bad decisions had to be made before good decisions could be made. And as you are all aware, if you watch the news tonight at all, the government has realized that they absolutely cannot get this done before the deadlines.
Oh, yeah, they're putting it off till after 2015, but that has nothing to do with the election. Nah.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, Donna, but thank goodness we've got another year to figure this out, because carriers already have it figured out, and that's your woman, Fuzzy Don. They've already got it figured out. That is my armor. And I'll tell you, the bad agents will be weeded out. I'm a good agent. I'm standing tall. The bad carriers will be weeded out. They will not be able to operate on a minimum loss ratio of 20%, which means they have to make money and pay their people to do their job, but they still believe in America. And I believe in America, and I believe in solutions. So whatever these politicians who know nothing about this industry put in place, those innovators of that are left in this world, and I do believe in America, I believe we will persevere.
Well, you're an optimist. I like that.
I am very much an optimist.
Okay.
I don't live in this country.
Well, and I knew that going into tonight.
All right, but let's look at another angle then. You're putting all these regulations in here because to me that we have a health insurance problem, and you've stated that. We don't have a health care problem. We are, in my opinion, now going to have a health care problem because you can't implement a Leviathan like this darn thing is that's longer than the Bible is, with regulation after regulation that nobody understands, and then expect a doctor to not make any mistakes putting codes in. They have a huge amount of software doctors now have to purchase in addition to their billing software that they already have, and you have this code and that code, and if something gets changed, the code has to be updated, and you get penalized if it's wrong, and if you have to resubmit it, you have to wait another couple months for you to get paid. It gets to the point where the doctors are saying, bag it, I'm not doing this. And I think this is going to cause a huge shortage.
There's actually already legislation in place that penalizes the carriers that do not pay within the day.
Yeah, I know, but the doctors, my girlfriend who's a gynecologist in New Jersey, she said I can call her 3:00 in the morning. She's in the office making sure all the codes were put in properly. How do you see patients? How do you run an office? You can't tell me this is not going to hurt the doctor-patient relationship when the doctor's more worried about whether or not he's submitting this properly instead of worrying about what kind of care the patient's going to get.
Well, we have staff for that. The doctor truly is not worried about all of that. And I have a physician OBGYN friend myself. As a matter of fact, I insure probably 30% of my block is physician-based practices. So I am a little bit more in the know than I should be probably, but am happy that I am. And their biggest fear is just the amount of care that they're going to have to now be faced with. They have staff, and their staff tackles that the same way mine does with client services. I don't deal with client services. I mean, I stay abreast of them, and I can help them through things. I'm the visionary of my company, but just like a physician, they are as passionate about care as I am about taking care of someone with regard to insuring them and making sure they have insurance and that their claims are paid.
But what about the bloated administrative fees that they're going to be burdened with? I mean, I've heard doctors say that in itself is a good enough reason to bag it.
I just, the gentleman that used to own my agency that I purchased my agency from, he had a saying one time, and it's embedded in my mind, and it is, don't swat the gnats and the elephants you're charging. I think what we have to decide in this health care reform bill, or what we're faced with in any situation in life, and this is a big one, okay? It's a big one. There's no doubt about it, but that's why it had so much publicity, because it is so big. And there's no right way to do it. There's a lot of wrong ways to do it. But he says, don't swat the gnats and the elephants you're charging. What's the elephant and what's the gnat? I ask you that question.
You're breaking up.
Me,
I didn't quite get
elephant.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, don't swat at the gnats when the elephants are charging. So let's define the elephant and let's define the gnat.
Mm-hmm. I think the elephant is the U.S. government.
You don't want me to answer that one.
To me, the elephant's the U.S. government. Sorry. See, me, Sheila, I'm skeptical. You're an optimist, and I think that's wonderful, but I'm not. I read between the lines here. All I see is the IRS looking at certain individuals and certain organizations they don't agree with politically, and then I think, oh my gosh, 16,000 IRS agents are going to run health care now? What's to stop them from saying, you get this, you get that, you don't get this, you don't get that? And what has the government ever done better than the private sector? Nothing.
Well, and you definitely follow news a whole lot more than I do, which I think makes me an optimist. Mm-hmm. We talked about Atlas Shrugged, and I really love that.
Uh-oh. Yep. We're losing her.
But Atlas Shrugged, yeah. Atlas Shrugged is amazing, and I wish I hope our listeners would actually check that out. Go ahead, Sheila. See, hopefully we won't lose you here.
Handle it.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Are y'all there?
Yep. Now we are. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's why I warned you.
This ain't working.
You know what? I think that what's going on here is the NSA is tapping Sheila's phone.
I think so, too. I know they're listening to us. There's definitely a problem with them listening to us.
Oh, you're back.
Hey, this is a lot of fun, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, really. Are you still driving? When are you going to get home so you can sit
driving.
still?
I'm riding, just so you know. But I've been down to Lake Wadowee. It's a beautiful place, and I had to get my home ready from renting it to someone. So I appreciate everyone. I really do.
No, but seriously, Sheila, I take this with, to me, I don't see anything the government does successfully that hasn't gone bankrupt. And what are we, so what do? We give them our health care now? I mean, I could see regulations saying everybody needs health care, but I certainly don't think the government should be the ones overseeing this, because this is political. There's nothing out there that's going to say grandma, has outlived her usefulness and shouldn't get this procedure. I have a friend actually who had whose grandfather needed a stent, which is like a very common thing. And he had to go through hoops and ladders to get it, and there was a lot of problem with it. Look at this girl with the lung transplant, and she had 2 lung transplants. She would have died, definitely, had a judge not intervened, and this had gotten a lot of publicity. But how many other publicity stories, how many stories out there don't get that kind of publicity? And this hasn't even kicked in yet. The Sarah Palin death panels, they're obviously not called death panels, but the outcome is the same. There could easily be somebody in the IRS that can say whether or not you get care. Go ahead.
I'm going to ask you a question, okay?
Yep.
Just put yourself in my shoes, a passionate person about wanting to say yes to everyone, be good to everyone, selfless. I'm defining myself right now to, that's why I think I'm good at what I do. I get, on average, 5 phone calls a month, a week sometimes, where someone wants to purchase health insurance and they can't do it. I have to tell them, no, you can't purchase it because there are pre-existing conditions and this carrier has turned you down. What do you say to those people?
I want to address that. Again.
You do?
Yeah, I want to address that, what you're saying. Again,
please do.
There are a minuscule portion. There is a minuscule portion of this healthcare bill or law or tax or whatever we want to call it.
It's a tax.
That is...
It's not sexy, it's a tax.
That you'd have to be a moron not to appreciate, okay? The existing care or the pre-existing conditions. The situation where parents are allowed to keep their kids on until 26. But again, I go back to the fact that the bloated enormity of this bill, that's the problem. That's the problem, in my opinion. There is so much in this thing that nobody knows about, which can be hugely detrimental because it can enable the government to have extreme power and control over the citizens of the United States. And that's what I'm against.
See, and I had even heard, Sheila, that this pre-existing condition, I guess there was, money set aside for it or whatever, is already going bankrupt. And everything has not even been implemented yet. And they're putting it off now, the big part of it with 50 employees or more, they're putting it off now to 2015. That was, if anybody's just joining us, that was announced earlier last day or two. And that's obviously putting it past the midterm elections. And a lot of people might not realize what's happening soon enough then. So to me, that's also political.
Well, I'll tell you another reason that I think that took place. Yeah. Right now, this administration and Congress are looked upon by the American people as a notch above a turd.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? All right?
Can't argue with that
And
one.
something like this...
Can I use that, Donna?
You can use it. It's a notch above a turd. Okay? And the thing is,
it's the turd on the
masses, the uneducated population, the uninformed voter is going to do this. They're going to look at this little move and they're going to go, "Oh, thank you, government."
Yeah.
All right? That's reason number one. Reason number two is not because, and this is my opinion, is not because corporations couldn't get on the system quick enough and figure out how to do it. They have departments that can do that very efficiently. I believe it's because the government wasn't prepared for them to be on the system yet, because they're going to leave it for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, there was no one that denied that this was being implemented far quicker than it should have been, and that there would be mistakes along the way. And it was literally being written and released. And I think I told you earlier that the way I keep myself informed is not by media. And if anyone's listening out there, this is a great way to learn, but your general media is a terrible way to learn about healthcare reform.
That's why we're doing this show.
Find yourself a healthcare expert, which I claim myself to be pridefully. But I invest monthly. It costs me about $1,200 a month to invest in a legal resource where I am given minute-by-minute updates. Tomorrow morning, I'll turn my computer on and I'll know more than a Philadelphia lawyer about what's going on in healthcare reform.
And some of it will be things that I've said.
Well, exactly. I agree.
Yeah, like I'm putting it off to 2015.
I may not look like it, but I am cutting edge, damn it.
See, I think this whole healthcare thing was written back around Hillary Care, when Hillary Care got
a lot of it
pushed
came
away.
from that.
So they were sitting
denying
waiting,
that.
but they were waiting like at the starting gate, the floodgates to open as soon as they couldn't wait to push this thing through. Make no mistake about that.
You have politicians, and what they do is they say they're going to do things to get voted in, and maybe they passionately believe it, maybe they don't. Let's not be the judgment. Let's not judge anyone, right? But
no, wrong. That's wrong. I will disagree with that. I will never, ever. Hold on, Sheila. Hold on, Sheila.
Okay.
I will never pass judgment on another citizen of the United States. I will pass judgment on a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay. All right. Let's see.
They
that
are
then.
fair
Let's go your
game,
route.
and there is no softball with politicians.
So what are you going to run for president and you say, what is the most unorganized, highly frustrating thing about Americans? And they came up with health insurance. And they're right, it is. It's why I'm so popular. It's why I'm successful, because I care and I'll do the right thing. Those people are hard to find. Affordable health insurance, however, I can't even help people with. I can't do it. It is unobtainable some days, and it gives me stomach ulcers. I have lost weight trying to understand healthcare reform, and I don't eat most days. I am knee-deep. I'm boots on the ground, but I'm telling you that Obama probably saw a way to get in. Number one, he's our first African-American president, if that's what he truly is, and he found a niche, and everyone bought it.
That
is
what we have. Is 1/6 of the American economy. Control of 1/6 of the American economy. Make no mistake about it. You got to follow the money trail. But like you say, Sheila, you have to be an optimist, and you want to try to work with, you want to make lemonade if you're given lemons. So let me ask you this.
Right.
Hospitals, you were saying, are forming new health care laws and possibly insurance. Tell us a little more about that.
Okay, so Wellstar in our area, they've been buying up local physicians. Tanner in our area buying up local physicians. And I think they all saw the future. I think they all saw themselves as their own providers. Back in the day, Blue Cross Blue Shield in a state, they called themselves Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they were really just an insurance carrier that formed an agreement with the local schools and said, hey, you pay us a premium, we're a hospital, we'll take care of you for a fee. So we're reverting back to those times. And basically what hospitals are trying to do is they're trying to form similar to what Kaiser Permanente is doing today. And they want in their communities their own health care organizations. So they are truly, what they're going to be doing is offering health care to local citizens of their community. Obviously they'll outsource things like Kaiser does that they can't treat. Kaiser will rightfully, when they tell you they cannot treat you, they will pay for something outside of their realm of expertise in another state even. I've seen them do that. So this is what we're seeing. We're seeing even our local community as well as the Wellstar community start to form these hospital-based insurance offerings.
Is that going to cause hospital-based doctors as well? Are a lot of these hospitals employing doctors at this point? Because I know a few doctors who are doing that.
Actually, probably in our community alone, I would be safe to say 2/3 of the doctors are already owned by our hospital anyway. They waved the flag and said, hey, based on tort reform and based on all of these other things that we just really don't want to be a part of anyway, worrying about that administration, worrying about networks, worrying about how claims are paid, let's let the guy who knows how to do it, the hospital, do it for us. They're bought out. They live happier lives. And any one of my physician friends who have bailed out to our local hospital has said this. It's just not a bad thing to do. I fought it as long as I could. I'm happy being employed by this other guy.
Well, of course, let them shoulder the burden. I mean,
how does the care
I agree.
suffer?
Exactly right.
How do you think the care is going to suffer, though? Because to me, you're losing individual care by not. Before it, doctors first started my uncle in my mother's living room. where the house my mother grew up, down in Newark, New Jersey. That was where he had his office. The waiting room was the living room.
Marcus Welby.
Yeah, really.
That was your.
Then it came to the point. Then it came to the point, obviously, where they'd go have offices, and everything was more, to me, more personal. How is it going to be personal if you got to go to a hospital for everything?
No, you won't go to the hospital. They'll still have their own facilities. Everything will be status quo. They're not going to try to taking over their operations, not necessarily anything else. When you go in, you can go into any one of these physicians' offices now and not know they're owned by Tanner. And Tanner does I'll compliment them on the radio right now. They do a sweet job. Mm-hmm. They do not manage their care any differently. They basically just take the administration off of the burden of their shoulders. The patient will not know any different. But I'll tell you this about a physician. Any of the physicians that I know that have made the decision made it because they're just tired of fighting all of these things that you're talking about. Yeah. They just don't want to do it anymore. They're like, I just really kind of not. I don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore. You know, they pay me enough. I see my patients. They're actually probably much more relaxed physicians. I think they may be giving even better care today. And you know what? I think it would behoove you to find a physician who has done that, maybe 2 or 3 to get on the call, and ask them yourself.
Well,
my
girlfriend, your friend Tina,
she's considering
doing it because
exactly.
she can't afford the way she's doing in private practice.
Exactly. So is that helping us? I think it may be on some level.
Yeah,
now,
but we didn't need the
job?
Affordable Health Care Act or the Affordable Care Act to do that. That again,
no,
I'm going to go back to the.
What did it do, Don? It forced awareness.
I know what you're going to say,
doing.
and I'll bend.
To citizens, to physicians, to politicians, and you know, Kaiser said it best. CFO of Kaiser said healthcare will not reform itself.
Yeah, but she was talking about doing this before Obama entered office. Okay.
I will tell you, I can do anything.
I know you can do anything.
I will clean houses. I will tell you how selfless I am about how I feel right now. All of everything that I told you will eventually put me out of business.
All right.
Hey, Sheila.
I want to go back. Hold on a second. I've been wanting to get this in, and I haven't had a good opportunity to do it. You brought up something a minute ago about tort reform. Now, this may be an unfair question to ask you because, well, I don't know. You're a legal expert in the healthcare industry.
Well,
here's what I want to know.
Out of my way, but
why do you believe nothing about tort reform was placed in this bloated, obtuse 2,700 or 2,900 page bill? Nothing about tort reform. And that could have been a huge thing to help manage and reform the healthcare industry.
One word: lobbyist.
Yep.
Then why are we having the government manage this?
Hey, how about another thing is the fact that 2/3 of the senators and the congressmen are all slip and fall lawyers.
Yeah,
they're not going to have any kind of law against them.
This is a political conversation, guys. Yeah. And if you don't think that those 2,900 pages had everything to do with trade and barter, it had everything to do with that. Because I told you about Hope for Healthcare, and maybe you'll have me back on to talk about my vision and my hope for America. Mm-hmm. You know, because I know that there's a way to do it. I really and truly do. I believe it with all my heart.
Well, we got into that the other night. Do you have the time to stay with us and share a little bit of this?
I do, you know, but I want to say it with this, though. I believe those 2,900 pages have everything to do with everything that we're talking about. They're completely bartering. They're completely trading. I think that it went from, at some point, 1,900 pages to suddenly 2,300, and then at some point when I was giving a speech or a presentation, and it was 2,900 pages. And my favorite thing to do when I give my Hope for Healthcare presentation is a stack paper on a table and say, that's what we're dealing with. And what I'm about to tell you could have been written on a napkin at a bar somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we agree. We agree.
Yes, absolutely we agree in the end. I just tried to make it really nice.
Okay.
That's what I do.
All right, here's what I want to do, Sheila J. Butler. I want to go to a quick break.
Okay.
Hang on the line with us, or if you drive through a bad cell and get disconnected, then call back. But hang with us. We're going to go to a break. We want to open up the phone lines as well if we have anybody that wants to call in and ask Sheila J. Butler some questions about your own health care situation and your health insurance situation. 917-675-3200. 917-675-3200. Sheila, hang in there with us. And if we lose you, just call us back. We'll bring you into the queue. And we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a minute, okay?
All right, thanks.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, the official radio show of StandUpAmericaUS.org.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Okay, so we know you don't necessarily want to talk to Don Neuen, but we know you want to talk to Donna Fiducia, and you can. Call 917-675-3200, and you'll get to talk to Donna Fiducia, and Don Neuen will sit there and wait patiently.
Hello, my name is Scott Winchell. I'm the National Editor-in-Chief at StandUpAmericaUS.org, and I listen to Cowboy Logic, and I hope you do too.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance, yes. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, wears Bailey hats exclusively from the Cowboy Shop, and so can you. Visit thecowboyshoponline.com or call them at 888-854-6913. That's 888-854-6913.
And another day of
It doesn't matter if you live in Georgia, the U.S., or for that matter, anywhere in the world. The Cowboy Shop will deliver right to your door. Visit the Cowboy Shop for clothing, boots, hats, home decor, saddles, and horse gear. Even children's clothing, anything cowboy, you'll find it at thecowboyshoponline.com or call them at 888-854-6913. The Cowboy Shop, for the little cowboy in all of us. Yay!
This is Jennifer Uriosti from Wellington, Florida. I make my living riding horses professionally. When I'm on the professional circuit, I don't have time for the politically correct mainstream media. What I do make time for is Cowboy Logic Radio, and I hope you do too.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
We interrupt this broadcast to take you live to a press conference by General Warren Boutwell, in which he is expected to announce that he is a candidate for the presidency of the United States.
I wonder if he'll run as a Democrat or an independent.
Never know. Might be a Republican.
Yeah, well, please. Kind of self-respecting black man will run as a Republican. Name one thing the Republican Party has done for black people. One!
Well, they were the party of Lincoln. They stood against the tyranny of oppression by leading the call for the Civil War and forced passage of the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the slaves.
I named two things lately.
I don't call myself a black conservative. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican. I don't use the word conservative. If I do use it, I make sure I explain the word and the meaning of the word first. But here's why the word conservative has a negative connotation in the black community. You have to remember that back in the 1950s and 60s, it was conservative Democrats who did everything they could do to block civil rights legislation. That's why it's important that we need to elevate the life of Frederick Douglass. He gave clarity to the 3/5 clause. He talked about the Constitution, that the word slavery is not even in the Constitution. And Douglass respected and admired the Constitution. He said the Constitution is a document that is going to be used for our emancipation. The Constitution says we the people, not we the white people, Douglass said. And if black folks are people, we're included in that. The whole notion of racial hatred and race baiting is perpetuated because freedom's always under attack. This is just a technique to make sure we're separated, that we don't come together. Because if we do come together on one common accord, we'll turn this country around and we'll go back to godly principles and we'll live, the country must be much better off. They don't teach Douglass. That's why they don't teach him. They want to keep this alive, keep us ignorant. And so you're right. The Constitution is a perfect document, I think, the way it was written, because Douglass said that. And Douglass talked about it. So this whole notion that all this racial hatred, this race baiting, it's all an effort to help diminish our God-given right for self-rule and keep us apart. And that's going to end with this movement. I think the biggest challenge facing the conservative movement is their inability to engage at the local level. How to beat the propaganda war, how to win that, how to trump the race card. That's what this Frederick Douglass Republican philosophy is all about. It trumps the race card. The values that I express when I go speak as a Frederick Douglass Republican are the same values that's expressed by the Tea Party movement. You just can't play the race card on me. So race comes off the table. So what we have to do, and what we're doing in our organization, we're traveling around the country and we're teaching conservatives how to create an atmosphere for political dialogue without being accused of racism. Then I ask you, do you respect the Constitution? Do you respect life? Do you believe in limited government, meaning that you like to keep more of the money that you make? Do you believe in the biblical concept that if you don't work, you shouldn't eat in terms of personal responsibility? Then you're a Frederick Douglass Republican.
I believe that what most people want in their lives is what the Conservative Party wants to have for them. I believe that our policies are fundamentally common sense policies. Just let's take taxation for an example. Wherever I go, I hear enormous resentment about the amount which people are paying out of their own pay packet in tax. And this goes right across the income ranges. Socialism started by saying it was going to tax the rich. Very rapidly it was taxing the middle income groups. Now it's taxing people quite highly with incomes way below average and pensioners with incomes way below average. You can't, if you're trying to control inflation, go on putting public expenditure up and up beyond the taxpayer's capacity to pay, because that's a factor which will lead to inflation. Liberty is fundamental. Liberty, human dignity, a higher standard of living is fundamental. And steadily, I think, people are beginning to realize that you don't have those things unless you have a pretty large private enterprise sector. Any Iron Curtain country has neither liberty nor a very high standard of living.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, the official radio show of StandUpAmericaUS.org.
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. And our guest this evening is Sheila J. Butler, health insurance expert, president of the Sheila J. Butler and Company Insurance Agency. And she, as we were talking with Sheila over the weekend, we kind of did a pre-show interview and find out exactly your thoughts on this whole thing with Obamacare. I was hopeful because she is an optimist about this, and I like to say if you get lemons, you make lemonade. But she did say that there are some things that are going to be positive about this whole healthcare thing, one of which is if you are a young adult, you can stay on your parents' insurance until you're 26, and thank God most kids don't need that, but there are a few that will. And if you do get a situation where you get sick unexpectedly or have some sort of accident, it could really set you back financially tens of thousands of dollars. So that's a good thing. And the other thing, of course, is the fact that it's going to make a lot of people who think they can get away with stuff possibly not get away with it and take a little more responsibility. To me, the problem is responsibility in general. A lot of people just, for some reason, nowadays sound like my mother. These kids today don't really have the responsibility and really look at their lives in a responsible fashion like they should. So maybe in some cases this is making it happen. Now, whether you need 20,000 pages or whatever it is, it's 2,500 pages, 2,900 pages to do that is another story. So anyhow, we still have Sheila on here, and a few more questions, Sheila, that I did want to ask you. You have a what you call Hope for Healthcare. Can you explain that in a nutshell? Because you do have this optimistic view about the whole healthcare reform situation.
Yes, I'm going to try to dumb this down a little bit, and I don't mean to insult anyone in saying that, but the very first thing anyone ever says to me is, I don't know anything about health insurance. I'm pretty dumb about it. They all say that. I know nothing about it. I want to know anything about it.
Well, you're speaking to me, and I don't take offense to that. I went to the University of Tennessee, and I'm labeled as a lot of things, but go ahead. Because I've got something for you when you're done answering this.
The idea. The idea was inspired when I was, as anyone else is, pretty frustrated about what was announced several years ago and how we're going to handle it. And is it really going to pass? I was looking at a large claims data report. So what this large claims data report produced was information for just that, catastrophic claims. So catastrophic claims, by definition, is a claim to an insurance carrier that they buy reinsurance for. So that number, or that dollar amount, is always somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 worth of claims. And I thought to myself, if insurance carriers do this for large groups, and they do not experience underwrite, they look at the catastrophic claims only, the claims utilization, and they buy that reinsurance for those catastrophic claims, and they know that only 20% of that group is going to utilize any given month or year, if you will, in claims experience, those large claims. So they adjust accordingly. They price claims below that number and say, all right, this is administrative cost. And then they charge that premium for the catastrophic claim to all members. And the only way they can make that work is for everyone to pay, every member to pay the reinsurance fee, if you will. Let's call that fee a tax for just 1 minute. And let's assume that that large group is America. And let's not break any bones about it. Let's call it a tax. And let's say it touches every single working American. And in those working Americans, let's just say it does touch some members that are not working. So for the sake of simplicity, if every single American, not by their employer, but by their right to live in America, needs to have at least catastrophic coverage. Don, let's face it, your knee costs less than $30,000. You could afford to take care of it. But if it were that renal stage, you could have died trying to get in care at an emergency room.
True.
But if you had a catastrophic premium that you paid in to the system, and that system is not run by the government, it is facilitated through the government only. It is still managed by, say, 3 or 4 top insurance carriers. You get to choose which carrier you want for those catastrophic premiums you've paid by means of tax through your employer, paid, channeled through the government, and then facilitated the proper carrier. So they only oversee it, they don't run it. But we have what's known as the best collection agency known to man. It's IRS. So we have to utilize that because it could be implemented tomorrow. We would still have choice, but we would be made to be responsible on catastrophic dollars only. Below $30,000 status quo, premiums were reduced by about a third. And then people would buy it because it's affordable. And people that didn't buy it would not be a nuisance to society. If someone has a calculator in front of them right now, let's assume there are 300 million Americans, and that $40 will be touched on some level, tiered in premium by income, or not. That's a lot of money every month. What is that, like $32 billion a month?
Well, it would definitely help pay for Mr. Obama's travels. Sorry, I
wouldn't go to him.
I tried to stop.
No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't
I tried
go
to stop
to him.
myself.
It wouldn't pay for this trip to Africa. No. Hey, but Sheila, so essentially what you're saying is people will be having this catastrophic care. See, I had heard catastrophic care policies weren't really going to be allowed under Obamacare.
Well, this has nothing to do with Obamacare. This is me trying to be Obama.
Yeah, no, this is we understand that's
Hope for healthcare
your idea,
is,
which you shared a little bit with us on Sunday, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Hope for healthcare.
See, unfortunately, I don't believe enough healthcare and insurance professionals were consulted on this. I think this was just a way for the government to grab 1/6 of the U.S. economy. Because, again, the main thing is this catastrophic situation. God forbid you get hit with a $30,000 to $50,000 bill or worse. That's going to put you in the hole probably for the rest of your life. And it could happen more than once. And if it's cancer, it's going to be a lot more than that. And the thing is, from what I gather...
You do realize that my idea has absolutely nothing to do with what's written today.
Yes, I know. But that's what gets me. They didn't consult people like yourselves for the best ideas.
Well, and I don't think your idea is some bloated, controlling policy or plan.
It's a solution.
Yeah.
And they did not ask insurance carriers, or insurance carriers may have given them that same solution. But, sometimes insurance carriers are made up of the people who are the movers and shakers behind the premium, actuaries and underwriters. And unfortunately, they are actuaries and underwriters. They're not the movers and shakers. They're not the innovators. They're not the outside-of-the-box thinkers.
Hey, a couple of weeks ago, I read in Drudge, and I think that it was Thailand. I could be wrong. But they have instilled a policy, a national policy, in which if you visit the country, you're required to purchase health care for while you're there. And I don't mean I don't mean just like a work visa type of a situation. You go visit the country, you got to purchase health care. Curious as to your thoughts on something that radical.
It's a big thing, and no one knows when they're going to be hit. They don't know. At 26 years old, I had a brain tumor. I had health insurance. Did I think that I was going to have a brain tumor? No, I did not. Was I thankful to have had health insurance? Yes. It was a benign brain tumor. But what happens in America is they don't know about health insurance, and they don't treat it like they do their car or their home. It's one of those things that people don't think about until they need it. And it's gotten to the point in our society that they choose now. They have to choose their groceries over health insurance. And Don and Donna, this is why I think that either it be right or wrong, and it is wrong, okay? It's a wrong way to do it. I know it. I'm just dealing with it. Mm-hmm. Something had to be done. And I encourage you, help me, like I have done. Let's give society a better solution now that we know what the wrong one is. So if I had to end your show in saying anything else with my optimistic, passionate attitude toward this, is let's find a better solution.
Well, first of all, I want to make it clear that I really applaud your optimism. I really do. And your passion for your career. I just think that if people like you would have designed this and tried to implement this, then I'd probably be behind it. But people like you didn't do it. Which leads me to, I'm going to throw you a curveball. I told you earlier that I'm not going to throw you softballs, and I didn't do it during the first segment. But now I'm going to throw you.
This is a knuckleball.
I'm going to throw you a knuckleball that's got about 25 miles an hour worth of wind behind it.
All right.
Straight from Drudge.
Oh, no.
By the way, Donna dared me to do this, okay?
All right.
Man, here you go.
One,
here's the title. Man rips off part of his penis while high on mushrooms. Let me repeat that.
Please.
This is straight out of Drudge.
Okay.
Shock. Man rips off part of his penis while high on mushrooms. Now,
was that in California?
No, it was in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And my question would be, would my policy cover that? And I'm with Humana. I'm with Humana. Would my policy cover something like that?
I think
The
Don's been
CPT
partaking
codes
of
do not
mushrooms.
get that. The only
hold
way
on.
it would not cover it is if you were at work when this said situation happened, and it was deemed at work, and
In
might
which
have been
workers'
paid as
compensation
workers'
would then cover it.
compensation.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's just horrible.
If I was out in, this is hypothetical, of course, and we're going to move past this for all my listeners that really don't want to hear about the man that ripped off part of his penis while high on mushrooms. All right.
Now,
let's say that I was down.
Because it's a penis, it might not be cosmetic surgery, so I would have to look that up in my code book.
There's a code for that.
I
Might
mean,
be a new
if
code
Donna
under
and I lost
Obamacare.
our breasts, they would not replace them. I've never been challenged by a penis.
You didn't insure Lorena Bobbitt's husband, then, did you?
You've never been challenged by a penis? Is that what you just said?
I've not been challenged by that situation with a penis.
Oh,
no.
okay. Oh, well, that
But
opened
breasts,
things up there, Sheila.
See, there's something you don't know. You considered yourself to be an expert, and you don't know that answer.
Every day, I learn something new.
What do you want to bet
Today,
Sheila's going in
I've
tomorrow?
learned
She's
something.
cracking the books and she's finding out what Humana, the position. All right, if I was down at my barn and this, I would call this a catastrophic event.
I would too. I would write an appeal for it. I can tell you that.
I can honestly tell you horses are not carnivorous, so you don't have anything to worry about.
All right. Now that I've thrown you that knuckleball, you really weren't ready for that,
This
right?
is totally degenerated.
I was ready for anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but you weren't
day?
ready for that. I mean, maybe some other form of a hallucinogenic drug, but not mushrooms, right?
Not mushrooms.
Okay.
No, not mushrooms.
All right. Now I'm going to get back on the
there's a
serious
two-part
note
to
because
this?
I'm going to ask you some questions that some of my friends and colleagues have been asking.
Okay.
First of all, let's say you've got a gentleman that has a wife and a child. They are in the man and his wife are in their, say, early 40s. Child's maybe 14 years old. They presently do not have any health insurance whatsoever. They get sick, they go to the doctor, they pay for it. Now, the first thing that I want to ask you so that you can explain some things to people is what do they need to do starting in October of 2013? What are they going to have to do?
2015.
No, 2013.
Well, no, this actually, I haven't been able to brush my reading upon it, but from what I understand, it's only large corporate above 50 America that's getting the break. I believe community rating and all those other things, public exchange is going to be in effect, but I have not been able to read about that. Let's assume that this.
No, I'm talking about individually. The individual mandate has not been postponed like the corporate mandate of 50 or above has, and I want to reiterate, to clean up the impression the American people have of Congress and this administration.
Right.
I assure you that's why it's been done. But let's go back to an individual, man and his wife with a teenage kid. The man and his wife are in their 40s. They currently do not have any insurance whatsoever. What is going to happen to them, and what are they going to need to do starting in October of this year?
Well, the first thing that they need to do is they need to go on to government, it's us.gov, and determine if they can qualify for subsidy in part or in full. And currently, that is a 14-page online enrollment, very similar to like Peach Care or Medicaid or Medicare. But what they will do is they will apply, and they will either be rewarded some subsidy or their insurance will be paid in full. If they have enough household income to have affordable health insurance, they could be subsidized some of that premium, which is why they say you're going to be taxed if you at least don't go out and get what is free.
All right, I'm going to throw a hypothetical household income at you, okay? 70 grand.
This is tough for me.
$70,000.
Depends on how many people are in that family.
3.
And if insurance is being offered through their employer, there are about 5 caveats to that.
Okay, well, here are the caveats. Number 1, man and his wife, they're in their early 40s, teenage son, 13 years old. Single income in the household, $70,000 a year. They do not have any insurance at this time.
Subsidy probably would not be available to them. However, they could buy a policy without pre-existing and without health underwriting based on their age. That cost is going to be released in October by insurance carriers abroad.
But they have to do something in October of 2013, right?
That is correct. No, they can apply in October for subsidy.
Well, that's something.
They have to have it starting January 1st, 2014.
No,
okay, but they have to take action starting between October 2013 and January 2014, right?
No, the open enrollment is October for subsidy. So if you want guarantee issue insurance, and you want to be, you're right though. You're correct. If you want guarantee insurance, you have to apply during that time. You're exactly correct. But there are two components of that. One is I want to apply for subsidy. The other is I want to apply for guarantee insurance policy. I don't have it right now, and this is open enrollment. That is correct.
Or number 3, they could come to someone like you and say, Sheila J. Butler and Company, I need to purchase an insurance policy for myself, my wife, and my child.
That is correct.
Okay, so those are the 3 options. They either apply for a subsidy, which they can start doing after October 2013, but must be completed by 2014, January.
Correct.
Or they can apply for
right
free health insurance based on their household income, which they may or may not be eligible for. They may or may not be eligible for the subsidy. And based on $70,000 a year with 3 people in the household, probably they would not be eligible for any subsidies, right? Probably.
But they would be insured. They would be eligible for guarantee issue.
In which they would purchase that from the state or the Fed, right?
Or from us, from private sectors. The reason that stipulation is put there is because we don't want, or they are recognizing the fact that you can't just come into the system at any time you want to. So there is some protection to the private carrier market with regard to, hey, I'm about to have surgery. I'm going to go out and buy insurance that's guarantee issue, so I'm going to buy it and I'm going to drop it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this open enrollment period serves 2 purposes. And initially, it is for that person who will receive subsidy and for that person who is currently going without and needs a guarantee issue product. Now, let's say that...
All right, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Guaranteed issue product. That sounds like something that I'd hear John Boehner say. Tell me what guaranteed issued product means.
Well, currently you can't go out and buy a policy with being underwritten privately. Now, in the...
Well, what kind of policy do I have?
Well, you qualified for it.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying you have to have no pre-existing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was not going to be the case with this.
Well, not necessarily underwritten. There will be no more underwriting in 2014 for the private sector market or the below 50. you can buy that insurance as long as you, A, have had a qualifying event throughout the year, meaning I've lost coverage, now I'm going to purchase it, or I've been without it forever, I can't get insured anywhere else because I have too many pre-existing conditions. So if I go during the open enrollment period for guarantee issue products privately or through subsidy, public exchange, I have to do it from October until.
And what happens what happens given the fact that Georgia has waived the public exchange for the state? Then it goes straight to the Fed?
States that are not creating their own private exchange, public exchange, alter to the federal exchange.
Okay. Now, next question. Same family, same income situation. Here rolls around January 2014. And like many Americans, they have procrastinated. They haven't done anything. They're actually sitting around hoping everything will just go away. Well, February starts coming in. March rolls around. And now you've got a family of 3 with a household income of $70,000, 40 years old is the man and his wife, and they have not done anything. What happens then?
If they can apply for a private policy, they can get issued, but it's not a guarantee issue product at that point, is my understanding of law.
So they could be turned
there
down.
Has to be yes, there has to be a qualifying event.
All right, and let's say they don't do anything then, and then April 15th rolls around, and their taxes are due for 2013. Do they see any penalty at that point?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
If they go without insurance in 2014, they will pay a penalty.
And they will pay, and they will pay that, and it'll be hit on their 2013 tax return, correct?
Yes.
And they won't have health insurance anyhow.
Well,
if they get hit with the penalty, it does not provide them then with insurance, correct?
No, it does not.
So they pay the penalty.
They had every opportunity to buy it, and they did not do it.
So
okay.
what's the point then?
Now
It's not making everybody get
they're back to the emergency room, Don.
Yeah.
No, and a lot of these questions I knew the answer to, okay?
Yeah.
But I really wanted to hear you say it so that it would put it into perspective for me, quite frankly, you know?
Yeah.
So basically what happens if John and Betty Doe end up not doing anything, then they're going to get hit with a line item tax penalty on their 2013 tax return that is due April 15th. And how much would that line item be for John, Betty, and Timmy?
I have a calculator that does that for me. I don't know the answer to that. And to be quite frankly, I haven't studied that because I'm more focused on helping the people who do want it, not the people who do not.
And
it's probably going to be a couple grand per person, though, correct?
That was a good answer. You put me in my place. And actually, we had an accountant on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but it's going to be thousands.
I believe, didn't he say $700 and something dollars per person?
It's a part of their income.
Oh, really?
It's an equivalent to the part of their income, yes.
So it's sliding. It's progressive.
Yes, that's correct.
Kind of like the government.
And that sliding scale increases over a 3-year period.
Yeah, that I heard too.
Income.
So this could be a substantial penalty for someone that's making, like let's say you've got a 29-year-old guy that's single, that's making 6 digits because he's gotten into a great field and he's living large, but he's an independent contractor, so he's kind of waived the insurance thing. It could hit him pretty hard then 3 years from now, right?
But guess what he could do? Let's just say he came down with some catastrophic disease. He could enroll in October and get guarantee issued. Or he could go to work for an employer and be insured immediately. So, it's really, I think you're only talking about 10% of Americans that will be that irresponsible. They'll have more opportunity in the new law than they would in the old law.
Mm-hmm.
They will. They'll have more opportunity. Now, is it going to cost every working American? Yes. Do I believe in the system? No, I don't.
Who do you think? I'm going to name some groups of the population and businesses. Who do you think is going to get burnt worst? The individual
Corporate
that say, okay, corporate America, and you mean those companies that have more than, say, 200 employees?
50 employees.
I would go as high as 500 or even 200 with multiple, where their business is dominated by part-time employees.
Right.
And they never intended on insuring those part-time employees. They never did. But the government said, hey, here we have it. This is the deal. If you don't insure these people, now we're gonna combine your part-time employees to a full-time employee. For every full-time employee you have that equals, they call them full-time equivalents, you're going to pay a tax if you do not offer health care.
And how are they doing that? Because I had heard, what is it, Donna, that Simons was talking about 2 weeks ago, where
$3,000.
No.
$3,000.
The difference between a part-time and a full-time employee, the number of hours. 30?
32 hours.
Yeah, they're making 32 instead of 40.
30.
Yeah.
30.
But if you have two part-time employees that are working 25 hours apiece, do they consider that a full-time employee?
Yeah, that's called full-time equivalent.
Yeah.
If you have 5 employees working a multiple of 30 hours, that's your equivalent.
All right, so this is to me, this is a huge money grab by the government too, because what's happening is the people who don't get insured and do get slapped with that penalty, they're not going to be insured anyhow. This is just a way for the government to make more money. Is that money that the government collects going to go back into the system?
You're right and you're wrong. That money is going to fund the public exchange, okay? So here's the thing. A lot of those people in those jobs are already insured by the 26-year age rule under your mom and pop's insurance. And by the way, just so you know this, let me further define it for you and aggravate you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They can be married and still be on that policy.
Really?
They don't have to be a full-time student. They get that insurance until age 26. So I think what they're doing is for those people that are in those jobs, those people typically will have insurance somewhere else or are looking for a job to have it. Mm-hmm. That's what we found. Or they're stuck in there and they're going to school and they're over age 26. Maybe they went back to school later in life, whatever it may be. You know, it's just, they're going to turn around and charge those monies to us. So yes, we're going to pay again. America's going to pay because Papa John said, hey, I wasn't going to do that anyway, but I'll pay the penalty. I'm certainly not going to provide insurance. I never was going to do that. Okay? That's why I have part-time workers. This is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't charge you, America, another $1 for your pizza. I'm going to pay. I'm not going to play.
You know, it's funny,
there
though.
Again.
Well, and they'll pass it on to the consumer.
Yeah. They've even said
Absolutely.
that. They have an Obama tax on some of these restaurants, a pizza tax, I think.
Hotels.
Hotels are saying.
Grocery stores.
Yep.
You name it. It's going to feed back into us something different from a tax, but yes, it's another level. There's 5 layers of taxes. 5 layers of it.
And,
I could define them all.
Well, what about the person who's a little older, already has a health insurance policy? How much of an increase are they going to see, if any at all?
They're actually going to receive a decrease.
Well, that's good news for many of us old farts.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm 45. I don't mind saying I'm 45 years old. And the tipping point for community rating, which is below 50 employees, or if you're buying a private policy, which both of you have through us, thank you very much for your business, they will, the higher in age you are, over 40, the lower your premium will be. The lower you are below age 40, the higher your premium will be on a tipping scale. That young gentleman who used to pay $90 because he was young will probably pay $300. Wow. That 63-year-old who decided to retire early and buy a private policy will probably exchange places with that gentleman who was 29. Now, that 29-year-old is probably more likely to be accepted into the work society than that 64-year-old is. And I think that was the government thinking behind this.
To eventually get everybody in the government exchange.
No, not necessarily. Just to have them all insured.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, someone over age 50 is more uninsurable than someone who is 29.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that I applaud them in that thinking, because was it ever fair, Donna, for us to pay more because we're older? Well, we just expected it because more things go wrong.
No, but it did go up. It did go up like 15, 20% last year.
Absolutely, it did. And I mean, I have some of my smaller groups that have employees that are over age 50 paying $800 a month for that employee to be insured on a $2,000 deductible on a group plan. Then I had that 29-year-old they were only paying $90 for. Well, what did they want to do? They wanted to get rid of us, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to insure those younger folks. Was that fair? Probably not.
No, a lot of older people are getting laid off just for that reason.
Absolutely. I've seen it happen.
My lips are sealed.
I mean, was it right? Was it wrong? Was it a market shift? What was it? I don't know. Will it work? I'm going to find out.
Yeah, well, time will tell. And the thing is, what you say is they're forcing this in there. It's going to go to an exchange. I hate to say it because, again, I'm more skeptical. That's exactly what happened with Social Security. It was going to go into this big old fund and the lockbox, the whole 9 yards, and they took from it. And this, to me, is just another government grab at 1/6 of the economy because they need another cash cow. And I sure hope I'm wrong and you're right, but I'm just going by past performance.
Care.
Yeah.
It's peach care for people who can't afford it. It is controlled premium for people who can, and that's the way I see it.
All right. I want to know how you feel about what's going on with the immigration reform and what that's going to do to the health insurance industry.
If it's all right with you, I'd prefer not to comment on that because I'm just not. Again, I have focused so much on so many things. I have not focused on that.
Okay, well, let's. All right, I respect that. Let's get back to the Drudge Report and the man that ripped off the part of his penis while high on mushrooms.
She can comment on that.
Are you speaking of a personal experience that we need to be informed of?
Thank God, no.
Sheila, have you ever wondered why? Have you ever wondered why I'm not the one that comes over to your office?
Meg's going to see us coming. Go, oh my gosh, there he is.
Meg's probably listening and is probably offended at this point.
Can't wait.
Well,
all right.
I want to leave it at this. All I can say is the latest thing to happen with the Obama administration delaying the health care law employer penalty until 2015, which is very convenient after the midterm election, is they actually have it, someone referring to it as deviously brilliant. That's Douglas Holtz-Aiken, who is former Congressional Budget Office manager. He calls it deviously brilliant, and I do agree with him. Because what they're doing now is they're trying to postpone it because most people don't really see what's going on. They're slowly starting to wake up to it, and this way it can be put off another year, and you got the midterm elections in the meantime, so possibly there might not be a backlash in time. So that's happening as well.
Sheila add
J.
something
Butler.
to that?
Yep, go ahead.
Sheila J.
Who funds political campaigns?
Andy Stern and the SEIU.
Unions.
Corporate America.
Yep.
And unions.
And unions. This is a huge union.
Okay.
Too.
What was the postponement about from what we can tell right now with this breaking news?
Just the employee 50-person mandate.
Exactly, but who funds political campaigns?
Yeah, exactly.
At ginormous amounts of money.
Yeah, it's all political. Follow the money trail.
There you go. We agree.
Well, that is the whole reason for Obamacare to begin with in my book. It's 1/6 of the American economy. Follow the money trail. But Sheila J. Butler of Sheila J. Butler Health Insurance expert. We love your expertise. We loved your idea of your plan to try
for healthcare.
Yes.
I just wish it would have been implemented.
Yeah, I wish it was implemented.
I want to thank you for putting up with me all night.
I'm trying hard.
Sheila, I appreciate the fact that you put up with me, quite frankly. I equate that to to our appreciation of your knowledge in the subject as well.
Never a dull moment, Sheila, I must admit, with Don. Never a dull moment.
Sheila, question for you here. You are able to bring on as clients only those people that reside in the state of Georgia. Am I correct?
Well, it's what you usually, yes. I could do more, I just don't.
But for right now...
I could be licensed in any state. I choose not to be, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And for the time being, you're licensed only in the state of Georgia?
And Alabama.
Oh, all right. So residents of Alabama and residents of Georgia that are listening to the show could, in fact, come to you and secure health insurance. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Give us your phone number.
Give us your
Sheila.
phone number. Give us your website. Give us whatever information that you'd like so that we can have it as a matter of record. In the event of a catastrophic injury to the genitalia due to mushroom consumption.
Well, my web address is sjbins.com, and our main line at our office is 770-834-4291, and there's a prompt that would get you to any of my great employees that I employ for any. You can actually get to me personally in those prompts, and I'm proudly I take all calls personally.
Well, before you came on the air, I gave out your cell phone number and your home phone, so people can get in touch with you very easily.
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you this. What did Meg Wilson do wrong in her career that she ended up being our representative most of the time?
She babysat for me. Let's see, my business will be in existence for 16 years. So about 17 years ago, she babysat for me, and I found a lot of quality in that young lady.
But why did you put us with her? I'm thinking she may have done something wrong.
Because she loves everybody like I do.
Another optimist.
I think Sheila needs to be a politician is what she needs to be.
She will be with me for 11 years in January, or maybe 12. She and I both laugh about it because we don't know, but she has been with me for a long time. She is a fantastic employee, but there is one thing we have in common. We like people. I told her, I said, you can work here and you can only work here, and that's, as to all my employees, I have 5. If you like people and you will help me solve problems. If you don't like doing that, you don't need to work here.
Notice she has 5 employees. She doesn't have anywhere near 50, so she's safe.
No, I'm good. I'm safe.
Well, listen, I have not only been throwing you curveballs, knuckleballs, fastballs, but I've also tried to hit you in the box. I've tried to take your knees out from underneath you. I have definitely grazed the jersey on a number of times, and I want to take a minute and actually endorse you. And that is that, yes, and this is something that Donna and I talked about not bringing up, and that is that you actually are our representative, and we have absolutely no complaints. You're accessible.
Thank you.
You lay things out to us. You make us make our own decisions after you provide us with the information that we need to make that decision. You don't try to hold our hand and walk us into something. You let us make our own decisions. The only thing that I really wish would happen is that Humana would stop penalizing me for dip. Okay? I don't drink.
I think you deserve a dip tonight.
I don't drink. Oh, I've been dipping the whole show. I don't.
And I'm going up to have a drink right now.
Listen, I do not drink. I made a decision 3 years before my oldest son was born that if and when I ever had children, I just didn't want to ever have them see their dad drink. And so I stopped having beers and margaritas at restaurants. So I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't even know how to do drugs. But I dip. And I have to pay for that.
And he vacuums, too, so he gets a lot of exercise.
Yeah, and I vacuum. What the hell's that?
Hey, can I ask you what your favorite vacuum is?
Dyson.
We have
That's what I have.
Yeah, I had Central Vac in New Jersey. But I don't have that
like
here.
you even more now, Don.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, do you have a Dyson vac?
I have a Dyson everywhere. Lake
Really?
home, which I just left, made it home, at my home, and at my office.
Right, this conversation's totally deteriorating. Do we have like a show going on here, or do we have a phone conversation?
It's our show.
I've enjoyed it. I've totally enjoyed it. Thank you for your raw honesty, your belief in me and in society, the way you believe in it.
Well,
I've enjoyed the conversation and hope you invite it back.
I got a feeling we'll probably be calling you right around the beginning of the year.
Like October.
But
no, we're safe.
Sheila J. Butler, thank you so much for being candid and especially for tolerating me tonight.
And being a good sport, Sheila, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry about the dropped calls.
Hey,
that's okay.
Okay,
that's
we'll give your website again, your phone number as well for everybody listening. But thank you, Sheila. We'll let you go. I'm sure you got a lot of stuff going on since you're just coming home from the lake. And I would think you'd be going out to the lake for July 4th, but that's not the case. All right, Sheila J. Butler, health insurance and life insurance specialist. Phone number 770-834-4291. That's 770-834-4291 if you're in Georgia or Alabama, like Lake Wedowee is. And it's Sheila J. Butler, which is SJBINS.com.
You know, she was a player there with us.
She was a good sport, especially when you started asking her that question.
It was on Drudge.
Why am I having a Howard Stern flashback?
I don't know. All right.
Oh, man.
We have to mention a few organizations here.
Yes.
The American Pride Network has been with us since our second show when they rescued us from the horrific audio of Blog Talk Radio. Nick Polizos and American Pride Network has given us, I would consider, near CD quality. For those of you who are listening, that's who you need to thank for that. Mm-hmm. In addition, I've got my blood in here. I've got my cousin, David Griffith, is handling all of the audio for us so that I don't have to do it and I can focus on throwing curveballs at guests. But he's got a phenomenal set of ears. He does a lot of studio work, and we are greatly appreciative that he has joined our team. Speaking of joining teams, Major General Paul Vallely, Scott Winchell of StandUpAmericaUS.org, as of what now, Luce, 3-4 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we've got a lot of stuff coming up with the General that is quite eye-opening in the future.
Sadly, we can't talk about it yet.
No,
we need another 24 to 48 hours, and then we're going to start discussing it. But rest assured, you are going to get things over the next few weeks that you're not going to get in the mainstream media.
In the meantime, we leave you in suspense with that one.
That's right. And that's
also,
the way we're supposed to do it.
I also want to mention the FrederickDouglassRepublican.com and .org. It's Douglas with 2 S's, Republican singular. That is what you really need to look at if you are a true Tea Party patriot and someone who wants to kind of bring the Republican Party back to what it was founded on.
That's right.
The FrederickDouglassRepublican.com and .org. Really great folks, and we want to look into that some more as well. They'll be in the Atlanta area in the next couple of weeks. You might want to check out their website and find out where they're going to be and meet up with them and help them out. And we're all in this together. This is the way we can kind of stand up AmericaUS.org.
That was cool how you did that.
I didn't even plan it.
All right. Want to say hello to somebody that is a huge supporter of this show and what we do. And it's a gentleman that I absolutely have the honor of working with every day. His name is Danny Hamilton, and he's the owner of Star Coaches, which is where I dedicate 80-plus hours a week of my life when I'm not doing something like this or being a dad or whatever else I do around here.
Talking about people who eat mushrooms.
Danny Hamilton is a true patriot,
mm-hmm.
and for many years of his life, he voted Democrat. and there's nothing wrong with that. But over the past 4 years, he's been a student of politics. We have countless conversation about what's going on. He's interested. He's a sponge. He bounces ideas off of me constantly. And a tip of the hat to Danny Hamilton, who really, as a guy that I get to work with every day. Normally, you don't have an employer that backs and is so supportive of something you're doing outside of the office, and this guy really is. He's the greatest coach owner in North America. End of story. And just a tip of the hat to Danny Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. And you know what the thing is? You say he was a Democrat all his life. Actually, I grew up in a very Democrat and very union household as well. But there is a huge difference between a Kennedy Democrat, a JFK Democrat, and what the Democrat Party is right now. In fact, JFK, by most standards, would be a conservative Republican. If you look back on the Democrat Party platform, the whole country is shifting so far to the left. I think the far left has fallen off the cliff into the progressive mud hole, if there's such a way of saying it. We got to bring the country back to the right. And by waking people up like Danny and people who have their own businesses and independent truck drivers and bus coach drivers and anybody else who might be out there trying to earn a living, that's going to realize this Obamacare thing is going to hit them like a sledgehammer over the head. And they're going to find out the hard way if or not they're covered with it.
It's going to hit them like a mushroom in the genitalia.
Oh, gosh. With that, I'm going to sign off because he's just totally out of control, everybody. He's absolutely out of control. And I'm going to go have a glass of Chardonnay.
I guarantee you there's at least one person that tunes into this show each week.
And is going to remember that week.
To find out what stupid comment like this I'm going to make.
It's not any stupider
and it's probably my brother Danny Hamilton.
It's not any stupider than, well, you have to pass the bill before you find out what's in it.
At least what I say makes sense.
Exactly.
All right. We're going to close out the night as we have for the past 3 or 4 weeks with the Stand Up America theme. We hope you guys have a great week. We love you, and we need you.
Have a very happy and safe Independence Day as well, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
All eyes are watching to see what you'll do. Who'll take the chance and make the first move? Will you shun the praise of the world in the moment?
Logic Radio. Unfiltered, politically incorrect, common sense. You've been listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, a division of Donna Fiducia Production.